little overwhelming, but it's really sweet. Look, good to see everybody.
It's great. You know what this means? It means that you've impacted them. You've impacted them in your roles in the way that they want to come out here and they want to get to know you more. I definitely want to get to know you more. I've been chatting with her backstage, and already as we were talking, it was so intriguing getting your story, and then I went, wait, let's save it on stage. Let's for sure save it on stage.
Share it with the rest of you.
I'm very intrigued to know, first of all, you have been acting for how long? How many years?
My entire life. I actually can't remember a time when I didn't want to do this. There's home video of me as like a 2-year-old wearing a turtle costume and little patent leather shoes, which I put my barrettes on so that they would be fancy. And then I was like doing little fake tap dancing for my mom.
Wow. So it was just always in your blood.
Yep. I don't know why. No one else in my family is an actor, but
really?
It's all I've ever wanted to do.
And so your parents encouraged it?
Yeah, for the most part. There was one moment in school, I did well, but definitely was like focused on the like acting after school programs. And so I went to my mother, who's a teacher and educator her whole life. And I said, you know, when you go to college, do you have to take English and history and math and science? She said, yeah, you have to do some of that. And I said, okay, well then I don't think I want to go. And she almost fainted because it was very important to her in education. Yeah. So we talked about it, and we came to a compromise, which was that I did have to go to college, but that I could go to an acting school where I spent all day learning to really do something that I love at an excellent level.
You know, I've gone into acting myself, has taken some courses. I was trying to figure out how deep do I want to go into this world. And I remember I was with Leslie Kahn in the school in LA, and Leslie put it simply, she said, you've got to love acting for the love of acting, because otherwise it's going to tear you up, chew you out, spit you out, you know, because it's so hard, the world. I mean, what have you found in your acting journey?
I mean, it's interesting to think about that, because there's two sides of that. There's the career side, the sort of industry side, which is so hard. You can be so good and love this career so much, and still it can take years to really hit your stride and start really getting roles that excite you. So there's that's a big struggle. But then also just within yourself, it's an art form, and you're asking yourself to be vulnerable, and you're asking yourself to be a little weird, or at least weirder than other people in your life. And that's hard, and I think for me, that's been the biggest struggle, is sort of allowing myself the space to be someone who is strange and cries easily and gets angry easily, and really accepting that our emotional life can be present. And because if I can't do it at home alone or with my loved ones, how am I ever going to do it in front of an audience of 500 or a camera that reaches millions?
What is it about being vulnerable, like, that it means to you? Like, was it hard for you as you were growing up to show emotion?
Being vulnerable for me is about being honest. I think that's when we all feel the most vulnerable, especially when we're being honest about something that we're insecure about, which I have lots of things that I'm insecure about. So much of the journey of being an actor has been about accepting those truths about myself and sharing it, and when someone asks, not giving the throwaway answer, oh, I'm fine, but saying, you know what, today I'm shaking a little bit while I hold this microphone because I'm really nervous to sit here in front of all of you, and I can feel the love and support in the room, and that steadies me a little bit, and just trying to be vulnerable and present wherever you are.
Yeah. And I know it's not easy. I know that in this world we've been forced to kind of feel like we have to be at all times, yes, like you said, oh, we're good, we're fine. And that if you show vulnerability, it just means that you're weak.
Right.
But I think the more we talk about it and we realize that when we do talk about our struggles, we can resonate, we can help somebody that is also going through the journey, which goes, whoa, I thought I was by myself experiencing this. What would you say as you were growing up was some of the most difficult struggles that you endured?
Yeah, and I've spoken about this before. I had the unfortunately not unique experience of being badly bullied when I was younger. And it sort of sucks that it happens when you're a kid, because that's so formative. And it made me, I think, in that young brain, think that person was no good and nobody wanted to know that kid. So I kind of I got real quiet, and I didn't talk to anybody at all, really, and the only time I would speak was when I was acting, which is a whole thing. I'm figuring out what that means. I'm sure there's a big reason of why this career means so much to me, is it really felt like it saved me at that point in my life, gave me my only outlet. But yeah, unfortunately, being quiet worked, which was a bad lesson to learn, and I think only now as an adult, I'm trying to get back to being that kid and reawaken that child and say, hey, it's okay, we love you and we accept you, and I hope that through my work, and I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons and things. I don't know if there are Relics fans out there or not, but definitely through D&D has been a big part of sort of finding that kid again and encouraging other people in the world to find their inner kid and let their inner 12-year-old sing Disney songs and do cartwheels and things like that.
Which is wild because you picked a career that you have to be so in front of, like, not hiding.
But it's make-believe. I get to play make-believe for a living, and it's so much fun. And there's something really safe about it, because when you're acting, I can get really angry, and there's consequences in the story, but there's not consequences in my life. So it allows me to express bigger and scarier and more vulnerable emotions than I might be able to in my real life. Yeah. So that's very freeing.
Wow, I love that. All right, so Dungeons and Dragons, you just brought it up. What the heck? I love it.
We shouldn't start with that, because it's all I will talk about.
But, well, I actually want to tap into it, because how did you get started in that? And why do you love it so much?
Okay. So I only got started a few years ago. I'm very new to the hobby, the sport, the game, the community. It feels like a sport sometimes. So I started playing about 7, 8 years ago, but I had always known about the game. And ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to play, but I had no friends. And D&D is one of those funny, like, super nerdy games where you have to have friends to play, which is a really good thing, because I think for people like myself that are a little introverted and shy, it's a good way to, a good stepping stone to socializing us strange people. And so, yeah, I finally found my manager at the time, had been playing his whole life, and he offered to run a game for me and my friends. I fell in love. And a few years later, started running games and writing my own material, which has been, as I said, very validating and opening up for me.
That's intriguing. I love that, because
Yeah.
I haven't dove into that world. I mean, as a kid, I played the games that were currently as
I am the wrong person to tell that to, because I will make you play.
Oh, I love it. Any Dungeons and Dragons players out there? Yes. Yes. Should I get into this? Yes. All right.
It is the greatest game ever created, because it's so free and open, and it's just imagination, and it's impossible to play it wrong. I mean, these are all reasons why I love it. And it's just collaborative storytelling. And I was a math kid, math and science kid, so I love problem solving. I love the idea of these, like, complex equations that you slowly kind of, through logic, come down to this very simple x equals is a really beautiful concept to me. And D&D satisfies that for me, because you go, here's a problem. There is a pit that's 60 feet across, and you can't see what's at the bottom of it. What would you do? You have to get to the other side. And, like, that problem solving is so exciting for me. And a lot of times as a dungeon master, as a writer of a campaign, I get so excited about creating that encounter, and I don't have any idea of how they might solve it. I just can't wait to see what the players will come up with.
Wow. All right, you've talked me into this.
Yeah.
I have to get it.
It's a great
I have to
game.
do it. All right, so in your acting journey, you were actually doing TV shows first.
Well, I started
Yes.
in theater in New York when I was younger, and then came out to LA for college, and then started doing television.
So as that was progressing, how did you like those roles? Because then you kind of went into the darker side with True Blood and Daredevil, Punisher, all of that. Like, did those roles, did you go more attracted to those roles, or do you feel like those roles picked you?
I mean, that's always an interesting question, because when you're starting your career, and still where I am now, I don't really get to pick what I do. I audition, and if they like me, then we get an offer, and I can decide if I want to take it or not. So, I don't get to be that picky in my career. So really what it is the beauty that we have as actors is that beings are resilient. We have that.
Is there a part that you played in a specific episode or anything that you were like, whoa, this is heavy, that you can remember?
I mean, yeah, lots of times. I mean, definitely. So this last season of Daredevil, we did a backstory episode for my character. And I was very lucky in that our showrunner and the writer of the episode really brought me in early on and showed me what they were working on and wanted to know my thoughts. And so we all together crafted something that I think we were all really proud of. And a big thing that I really fought for and that, they helped us, create was that Karen should be active and that there should be consequences to her actions. So, spoiler alert, I don't know. Karen's brother dies, and it's her fault. And I didn't want anyone to be able to say, oh, well, it was because that person was chasing you, or because of this or that, or extenuating circumstances. He died because of her, and really owning that and saying, you can still be a good person and have made terrible mistakes. And knowing that kind of a person lives inside of myself, that I do on some gut level understand that is hard. And it does make you think about your own life and the mistakes that you've made and whether you've made up for them or not. Yeah. But then you learn from it and you say, you know what, if Karen can get through it, I can get through it.
So does your character sometimes help you? Because I know that there's been some characters, whether it's even in the WWE, right? There's been some superstars that have created these characters, larger than life superstars, right? And they tap into, well, I feel insecure, but I'm going to step into this role and feel the security from that. So it's almost like an alter ego.
Yeah. Well, we did some clowning when I was at school, and the whole thing of
What is that?
Clowning?
Yeah.
Well, essentially it's improvisation, but it isn't so much like squirting water out of flowers necessarily, but the exercise was to take things about your personality and even your body physically, anything that you were insecure or felt vulnerable about, and you're gonna highlight those. And your character is gonna be all about that thing. So if you're insecure about your big feet, your character has ginormous feet, and they're super proud of them, and every single minute they're showing off their giant feet, and that the point of the clowning was to lean into the things that make you the most nervous and insecure, and it's a very freeing exercise. Wow. So in many ways with characters, I struggle with anger sometimes, and sort of accessing it in a healthful way and things like that. And so with Karen, who I think had a lot of anger, it was a very helpful thing for me to lean into that side of myself that I'm nervous about or don't quite know how to express, and learn from her and learn in that safe environment when I know I can yell at Matt Murdock because Matt Murdock doesn't really exist and Charlie's gonna be okay. Yeah. It gave me an opportunity to sort of feel what that feels like, and can I find a way to more healthfully express my anger in my own life rather than tamping it down.
It's wild that you even say that you struggle with anger, because from the moment I met you, you just seemed, like you said, you were kind of quiet, more, and to know that, what do you mean you struggle with anger?
Well, meaning that I don't express it. I hold it in, I bottle it up, I think it's inappropriate or taboo, or, I think, similarly, a lot of boys are taught not to cry. I think women are taught not to be angry, and so for me, that's a sort of classic struggle. So I liked that Karen expresses it. She doesn't care. If she's mad, you should know. And it's okay that she's mad. She's correctly mad, Yeah. And I appreciate that about her. And that character in Daredevil gave me an arena to see that was okay, that people can handle it when you have a strong feeling.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about True Blood. Yay. Because that was a huge breakout role for you. Yeah. You'd already been doing some TV series, but when that came around, you were only even supposed to be a guest role on there. And all of a sudden it turned into, you were one of the regular season cast members. Yeah. Tell us about the journey, how you got that audition, and how it turned into 7 years.
Well, I got the audition like most actors get auditions in Hollywood. Your agent sends you a sheet and you show up at a time and you learn the material. And it was a particularly great couple of scenes because it was those first two scenes, so the making of Jessica and then her waking up as a vampire. I remember doing all kind. I was on the floor, rolling around, crying, and I had this instinct to like eat my own tear, like to do like that with my tear or something like that. It was very intense. And I booked the job, which was great. And I came in and I shot those 2 episodes, and then they called and they said, we would like to offer for you to come back and be a regular with us next season. And they wrote me into the final episode, and it was a big moment. It was a really gratifying moment. The show hadn't come out yet, so we didn't really know that it was going to be a hit or not, but I knew it was Alan Ball, and I knew all those fantastic actors that you all know so well, and it was just really, I was so young, and I was like, oh my God, I get to go play every day.
Yeah. What was the toughest thing that you endured during that, and what was the most fun part about it?
It's always so hard to what's the top? I mean, there's always so many answers. One really cool thing about True Blood is it was a great, actors 101 for what you might ever encounter within this career. I worked with kids, animals, blood, prosthetics, wire work, stunts, overnights, just absolutely anything and everything that a film could ever throw at me, I've done in some capacity on that show. So it really gave me a lot of confidence moving forward in my career. So that was one of the best things. One of the hardest things, wow. Maybe saying goodbye. You play a character for 6-7 years, and they're a part of you. And also you meet all these other people. So, Stephen Moyer played my father, and I still see Steve from time to time, and we interact on things, but I'll never see Bill Compton again. I'll never hug my father as Jessica, and that's a real loss in a way, and it took me a long time to kind of turn that corner.
Yeah. Especially because you go from there and then you end. Now,
Yeah.
did you know when the series finished, did you already have another project set up?
Yes, I already had Daredevil.
Okay.
I literally started Daredevil 48 hours after I wrapped on True Blood. Wow. I wrapped at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday, went home, slept a little bit, packed all day Wednesday, took a red eye to fly to New York Wednesday night, and was shooting Thursday morning.
Was that exciting, or was that, that's a whole new cast, whole new, everything.
Yeah.
So it's scary, or?
Yes, it's scary, especially if you're a little introverted and shy. It was also exciting. I also felt like I said, because of True Blood, I felt like I knew what I was doing. I had some cred built up from having done television for 7 years. And it was exciting, and it was a step up for me because it was a lead, and that was cool. But yeah, I stepped right onto a stage, and they were like, okay, here's all your other actors, and your first scene is you are fighting off a person in prison who's trying to kill you. Go! I was like, great.
How much of your own stunts do you do?
Oh, as much as they'll let me. One really important thing I think to know about amazing stunt teams is that, one, they're absolutely there to do the really crazy stuff that actors can't do because it's a specialized skill. But really, they're about safety. Stunt performers and teams are these incredible people who know exactly how to rig everything and make sure that you can do as much as possible, as safely as possible. And I just have been impressed with every single stunt team I've ever worked with. They're just top-notch, some of the most professional people I've ever worked with. So I love being physical. I danced and did gymnastics when I was younger, so I have a good kinesthetic sense. So if they'll let me do something, I would come in early, and I will learn it, and I will get on the wires, and I'll do it.
Has there ever been a stunt that you started to do and then you're like, I'm not catching on quickly?
No, none of them.
You are so badass.
Well, but there's something about you really want to, you get really obsessed, or I get really obsessed. So, I will go home and I will practice the routine over and over and over again until it's in my bones.
What was your hardest routine that you ever had to do on a show?
So I recently had a film come out in January called Escape Room, where I played an army vet who then climbs through this upside-down room. And I was on wires the whole time, but they can't really help you. It's just there in case you fall. And there's this one moment where there's a 7-foot jump from the underside of a bar to grab onto the ledge of a pool table that's upside down. And they couldn't help me, and I'd practiced it at a lower elevation beforehand, but when we got to the set, it's 30 feet in the air. And I remember being up there, and they had the camera on me, and we were all set, and my palms were a little sweaty, and I wiped them off on my jeans, and I took a deep breath, and I leaped. And that whole moment of me preparing and genuinely feeling the nerves of how scary it was to do that leap is all caught on camera, and it's in the movie. And again, like, so challenging, so scary, but so worth it, because now it's part of the story.
Yeah, I got to go back now and watch that scene. How many of you going to go back now and watch that scene, right? Love it. All right, memorizing lines, because that is, as an actor, is one of the hardest things. God, did I struggle with that, for sure, yeah. What is the trick to memorizing, especially when you're handed, a script that you're in a lot of the script?
Some of it is practice, for sure, and getting better at it with time. But I always like to think of it isn't really memorizing. I don't memorize lines like you memorize the dates of the French Revolution in school. You know your lines like you know the words to your favorite song, right? You know them because they mean something to you. And, if my line is, "Oh, I'm doing great," I only know that's my line because you asked me, "How are you?" And I go, "Oh, right. I have that thing where I say, I'm doing really great. And I'm doing really great because this thing happened to me, and I have that in my mind. So when I say it, it's real." So I don't actually have to memorize, she says, "How are you doing?" And I say, "Oh, I'm really great." You just know it because it's a response to something, and you've supported it with all this great stuff that's happening for you. So I actually don't, if you ask me to just like recite lines, I can't do it. But if you give me the context and give me time to like look at it and really learn it by heart, which I think is very different than memorization. Learn by heart, I think, is the key to acting.
Great tip. Thank you for that. I'll definitely put that into the next use. Out of all of your roles that you have played, which one has been the one that you're like, wow, this really resonated with me, and which one do you miss the most?
You will be unsatisfied by this answer because it's not a TV role. There's two parts. In college, I did Helen in All's Well That Ends Well, which is a Shakespeare play, and I'm a big Shakespeare nerd. And it's one of my favorite plays because she's crazy amazing. She's this poor girl who's in love above her station. She's also super smart, and she goes to the king and she cures his incurable disease. He's then like, "You're amazing, you can marry anyone you want." And then like by the end of the play, she has the guy she wants, she's pregnant with his kid. The king will basically do anything she says, and it's just, she drives the entire plot. And I love it. She's not reactive, she's active through the whole story, and it's really her story. So I missed that part. I would love to play that again at some point in my career. And then I played Polly Peachum in Three Penny Opera by Bertolt Brecht. And she's a twisted little minx. And it was just really fun. It was a great production. I love all that music so much. So yeah, those are the two parts I'd love to do again.
That's awesome. So now that you finished Daredevil, Punisher, and you didn't have another 48 hours that you were jumping into another role.
No.
It became like like what's next? Like, where are you now? Like, what's going on now?
Yeah, well, someone told me I should say that I'm fun-employed.
Fun-employed?
That's the pun I'm supposed to use to make myself feel better about it. But yes, I don't have a job at the moment. I'm auditioning, we were saying backstage that you don't go entirely back to square one when jobs finish, but but you are starting again, and you certainly get to go into rooms that maybe you wouldn't have had access to before the job, and you make your way up, but it's not like anyone's beating down my door to
which
to
is
do
wild.
something.
I think I mentioned this to you, and I'd love for you to share it with them, because my thought, and I don't know if some of you feel this way, but I'm looking at, well, now we have Netflix, now we have Amazon Prime, now there's so many different channels. You got Facebook Watch, you got all of these different programs, and I'm thinking, wow, as an actor, this is an amazing opportunity to be able to play, or have the opportunity, right, to be hired, because there's so much more that you can play in.
Yeah. There's a lot of content, but there's also still a lot of actors. In fact, when the recession first hit, there was a statistic that came out that said, like, there's one job for every 4 people. And I was like, oh, well, that's still better than acting. Like, my job is recession-proof. Who knew? So it's still a really tough odds. And the fact is, you go on hundreds and hundreds of job interviews, and the chances are you won't get most of them, which is unique to this kind of a profession. But also because there's so much content, it also kind of dilutes everything, and not that many people watch a show anymore because we're all spread out. There's a few huge hits that people, get the big numbers. For the most part, it's this kind of niche market, which is very cool for content. But in terms of sort of career building, you just kind of have to take what speaks to you and gravitate towards things that would be fun to do.
What do you want to do? Like right now, it's almost like you have a clean slate. What would you want to definitely get a role? Like, what is your bucket list role? If you had anything right now that you could play, what would it be?
It's classical theater. It's Shakespeare. So I love Shaw as well. He has this amazing play called Mrs. Warren's Profession, which is about prostitution at the turn of the century, and it's really amazing. Again, kick-ass women. It's a mother-daughter story. The daughter wants to be an accountant. She's this like incredibly intelligent woman who went to school at a time when no one went to school, and the only reason she could is because her mother was a sex worker. And it's this wonderful conversation about what do we do for our families and morality and how all of that comes together. And I love that play. And I'm too old to play the daughter now, but in about 10 years, I'll be the right age to play Mrs. Warren.
So what are you going to do in the next 10 years?
I don't know. Keep pitching it until someone will let me do it.
I love it. That's great. All right, we want you guys to be part of this. So we have a Q&A set up. You can ask Jessica, right?
Jessica,
Karen, or Deborah.
Anyone you want to ask a question.
Any questions? As a matter of fact, the microphone is right here. You are first. Welcome. Hi. Go ahead.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thanks for the photo op and all.
You're welcome. Yeah.
So my question is, what is your favorite thing that you did in Daredevil?
Well, my favorite thing that I did in Daredevil. Well, the Karen episode as a whole is a big favorite moment. And even that whole last sequence when we were up in the church chasing each other around and stuff, and we were sneaking through, that was really fun to, like, again, spoilers, I don't know, watch the show, where I knock the fake Daredevil off the balcony with a giant crucifix. That's our show. It was very cool. It was fun to be a part of that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi, welcome.
Hi, my name is Christina, and I, like you, am a very introverted person.
Speak into the microphone so we can both hear. There we
I'm
go.
a very introverted person. I don't have many friends. But seeing you and your love of D&D inspired me to pick it up. So in a week, I'll be DMing my first game.
Yay! Oh my God, congratulations. It's going to be great.
So I wanted to ask you, what is your tips and advice for a new DM?
For a new DM, be fearless. Like, if something feels like it would be fun to you, just do it, and your players will love it. Even if it falls flat on its face, it'll be so much fun. It'll be funny, and it'll be a story you guys talk about forever. I mean, the number of times I've said something that I thought was so stupid, if I had held myself back, it would have just passed. But the few times that I did say it, and we all just burst out laughing and went, okay, moving on. But we talk about those moments all day. So just be fearless. Do anything that feels fun. Sure, have a good time.
Hi, how are you? Welcome.
Hey there. I was just wondering, especially being in your present position, if you had ever given any thought to transitioning to more of like a directing or a screenplay writing role at some point in the future.
Not really. Directing has a lot of technical aspects to it that don't really interest me. There are other people who are really fantastic and obsessed with angles and stuff like that. As an actor, I like specifics. I like details. I get really excited about the fact that, like, that sweater is blue and that was the color of the thing, you know. And directors don't really have time for that appropriately. So yeah, I don't find myself drawn that way too much. I've been doing a lot of D&D writing, which is not quite the same thing because it's very free form. But so yeah, that's my answer.
I love, though, that you know what you want to do and what you don't want to do, because I think that the mistake in life in anything is that we think, or for you maybe in acting, oh, I guess I should be a director because so many actors have become directors. But I don't think that if that's not your thing, if you're not, if you don't really want to do it, you're not going to be good at it. So just don't do it.
Very true. Hi.
Hi. Knowing how dark Karen Page's story is in the comic book, did you have any trepidation about stepping into that?
I did a little bit. If I'm perfectly honest, I think the darkness that they brought into Karen's story in the comic books was really of its time. I don't think it's an appropriate story for women's stories now. So I wasn't afraid of the darkness so much as I was just really hoping that the whole team was open to exploring darkness in a different way. So I'm glad that we went really dark and that she's a complex, morally conflicted person. So we took that aspect of those stories rather than the literal stories. Thanks.
Hi, welcome.
Hello, my
Wait.
name is Monica, and my question is, what was the hardest thing to say goodbye to with Daredevil and Punisher?
Oh man, there's so much. I mean, the people. Like I said, it's the actors, but it's the characters. It's a really weird thing to describe missing fictional people. But those of you who are voracious readers, you'll know that. Like when you finish Harry Potter and you're like, no, come on, there's got to be more Harry Potter. So it's like that. And sometimes I'll be at home. I spent 3-4 years daydreaming constantly about Matt and Foggy and Ben Urich and Frank Castle and these people that were important in Karen's life, and now we're just gone. And I'll still have dreams about them. It's very weird to have dreams about fictional characters. Thank you.
I think it's true, though, especially when you dive into books.
Yes.
Yeah, there's many books that I've finished that I'm like tears. I'm
But
like,
isn't that
what
amazing
the
that
heck?
we have the capacity to feel for something that we know doesn't exist?
Yeah.
Like, what a cool thing we can do as humans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, what's your name? Welcome.
Hi, I'm Trisha. Thank you for being here, Deborah. I'm a huge fan of
thank you.
yours, and thanks for all this. I wanted to let everybody here know about your charity with EJ.
Oh, that's
I
so
support
sweet
him,
of you.
and I follow you guys, and I just thought maybe you can touch on that.
Oh, thank you so
everybody
much.
here that may not know about his charity, that you can
That's
talk
so
about
generous of you. Yeah, so my partner EJ has an eye disease that's called choroideremia, and it affects his whole family, and he is losing his sight. So it was interesting. I didn't get Daredevil because of that or anything. It was just sort of a coincidence. But obviously, it's very important to me to have visual impairment represented accurately on screen and things like that. So that was a nice opportunity. But yeah, we do a lot of fundraising and auctions and things that will go to either the Foundation Fighting Blindness or the Choroideremia Research Foundation. So if you ever want like signed items and you didn't get one here, you can go check out our auctions online and it'll all go to a good cause.
Can
Thank
you?
you.
I appreciate you bringing that up. Can you tell us how he's doing with that?
Yeah.
Because that's got to be scary. Like knowing that because there's no
Yeah.
cure,
No
right?
cure.
And you know that you're losing. Like, is it one of those things where you're losing your sight to go completely blind?
Yes.
That's. I mean, I hear that. I don't know. I'm sure you guys feel that too. Like knowing that you're going to go blind, it's got to be so scary. How do you
Yeah.
handle that? How is he handling that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's obviously very difficult, and there's ups and downs, and some moments are really wonderful, and we don't think about it at all, and then other moments it comes in to play. But EJ is an incredibly proactive person. He's he gets around completely independently. There's no, he's just a regular grown-up, and so he recently has had some good news about his eyes. He had some cataract surgery, and it's been really fun to see him be excited about his eyesight and say, oh, well, I don't have to wear my glasses, or that, my central vision that he still has, is clear now, and that's been very exciting and gratifying.